Top Boxing News.
Okay, we'll start with this. Lightweight contender Isaac Cruz would consider a move to 140 pounds for direct title shot at Regis Prograis, even though he doesn't deserve one. Doesn't deserve a title shot at 135 pounds, much less at 140 where he's beaten no one and accomplished nothing. It's these self-entitlement issues that hold the sport back. Isaac Pitbull Cruz would consider moving up from lightweight to super lightweight, but only if there was a direct world title opportunity against the WBC world champion Regis Prograis, according to his father and trainer, Isaac Cruz Sr. If there is a world title fight, that would be an option, Cruz Sr. answered to Izquierdazo when questioned if his son was willing to move up to 140 and fight Regis Prograis, but only if there is a real world title fight.
Right.
We wouldn't be interested in moving up except if there is a world title opportunity at 140, we would take it.
After the Gervonta Davis fight, I stated that Isaac Cruz has the potential, emphasis on potential, to become a draw of his own. But 2 fights later, he really hasn't done that.
You may not realize this, but it's been a year, a full calendar year since Isaac shared the ring with Gervonta Davis.
Been that long?
We would not discard that opportunity of fighting Prograis, Cruz Sr. said. If it is for his world title, we would take it now that he has the option to pick an opponent. That would be perfect. We would only move up to 140 in that scenario. Jose Ramirez stepped away from a mandatory fight with Prograis after the proposed purse split was 65-35 in favor of the champion. Cruz Sr. clarified that there were no ongoing negotiations or talks, but he also made himself clear that the purse split for a fight with his son should be better than what was proposed to Ramirez. We need them to put money on the table to pay what is fair, Cruz Sr. said.
They're not moving up and they're not fighting anybody.
Not even saying that he would beat undisputed lightweight champion Devin Haney, who's the only champion in the men's lightweight division where Isaac campaigns. Not even saying that Isaac would beat Devin, but Isaac stands a better chance against Devin at 135 than he would against Regis at 140. And you don't see these guys trying to fight Devin, do you?
But we're intended to believe that he'd move up for Regis at 140.
I mean, think about it. You'd move up to fight Regis for one belt at 140 while expressing no interest to fight for all of the belts at your own weight, where you wouldn't have to move up anywhere.
It's bullshit.
We need them to put the money on the table to pay what is fair, Cruz Sr. said. We won't take the fight only for the world title opportunity. We need the money to be acceptable.
What's an acceptable number for a guy who's an undercard fighter, not a champion, a guy whose claim to fame isn't even a fight that he won, a fight that he lost? What's an acceptable number?
What are you supposed to pay Isaac Cruz? Isaac Cruz, who turned his nose up at the idea that he should face Michelle Rivera back when Michelle was an unbeaten fighter. He more recently turned his nose up at the
idea that he should face Shakur Stevenson. He turned his nose up at that as well.
If my memory serves me, that fight was actually ordered by the WBC.
Ever since he lost to Gervonta Davis, Isaac Cruz and his father think they're too good for everything.
You'd have thought they won the fight, the ego boost that they've gotten out of all of that. It should be 60-40, and to be honest, I could say that even 45% for Pitbull, because at this moment, he is a box office draw and will fill any arena where he fights. The desire for people to see Pitbull fight is already strong, and he sells tickets. If there is an opportunity, why not talk about it? And if he's as big a draw and he sells as many tickets as you say, why hasn't he headlined a show since losing to Gervonta Davis?
This guy's a box office draw.
How many box office fights has he headlined since dropping that decision to Gervonta Davis? I mean, he's an undercard fighter. The 2 times that he's fought in the subsequent months that followed the Gervonta Davis fight, those were both undercard fights. He's not at a point yet where he's headlining his own shows, let alone his own box office fights, his own pay-per-views.
I mean, if he's as big a draw as his father says he is, shouldn't he be the one sending Regis the offer?
The potential that I saw in Isaac Cruz post-fight after the Gervonta Davis fight was something I'd characterize as everyman potential. He's got the look of the everyman, and that's the best way to market him. But this prima donna that we've been seeing the last 12 months,
60-40?
he wants to be fast-tracked to a title shot at a weight where he's fought no one and accomplished nothing, and he's demanding a 60-40 split for a title shot that he doesn't even deserve.
He's not a headliner like Jose Ramirez, you know.
Jose Ramirez in West Coast That guy sells tickets, enough tickets that he headlines his own shows, whereas Isaac is still just an undercard fighter.
Until further notice, he is.
Listen, I think Isaac Cruz has potential to become a draw unto himself, but he's not fighting in the right fights, and they're not marketing him the right way. As stated, he's more of an everyman than a heel or a prima donna. He's more of an everyman kind of fighter, and that's the appeal that he has.
They were reported to have received a 7-figure offer to face Ryan Garcia in Ryan's comeback fight. That didn't happen. They didn't fight.
Turned his nose up at his PBC stablemate Michelle Rivera, and more recently, he turned his nose up at the idea that he should fight Shakur Stevenson, even though the fight was ordered by the WBC. If you ask me what they're really doing, if you ask me what Isaac and his father and the people at the PBC are up to, I believe they're waiting for Devin Haney to move up in weight. I believe that they're lining themselves up to pick up a vacant title should one become available. They don't want to challenge a champion for one.
I'm telling you, if the titles are transferred from Devin Haney to Vasyl Lomachenko,
they're not going to cross over the top rank to take on Vasyl Lomachenko. If Devin Haney beats Vasyl Lomachenko, what they're banking on is Devin Haney moving up afterwards,
vacating his titles so they can then pick one up.
The stuff about Regis is all hot air. In the same breath they tell you that Regis has got to give them 40%, he's got to give them good money, they tell you that Isaac is this big draw, this big box office star. Well, if he's that big a star, he should be the one sending Regis the offer, since he's the one who wants the title shot he hasn't earned.
I don't think you really need me to tell you that Isaac Cruz versus Regis Prograis won't see the light of day.
Though on the off chance it did, inside of the next 1 or 2 fights, I'd pick Regis Prograis comfortably to knock out Isaac Cruz, who doesn't have the size or the frame to campaign as a super lightweight. I mean, this is a small guy, a very small guy for lightweight, let alone super lightweight.
Don't talk to me about how he went 12 rounds with Gervonta Davis when, you know, a one-legged Yuriorkis Gamboa practically went 12 rounds with Gervonta. He had one good leg, and it still took him 12 rounds to finish that guy.
Gervonta Davis not being able to knock out Isaac Cruz doesn't mean Isaac is ready for what 140 has to offer, let alone a fight with a Regis Prograis, though. If they ever made it, I'd pick Regis comfortably to knock him out.
Because he's too small.
Just in keeping with the theme of the world title picture, the men's super lightweight division, Regis Prograis is eyeing a unification at 140 next. Puello or the IBF winner, the winner of the Ponce versus Matias IBF title fight for what is the vacant IBF title. Maybe I will look for a unification or something like that, Prograis told ID Boxing. I know that dude Puello has the WBA title, and they have some dudes fighting for the IBF, and maybe, you know, I fight one of them. I don't know. Whoever it is, I don't care whoever it is. I'm ready. I'm going to train hard, and I'm going to defend my belt, and I'm going to do what they tell me to do. Prograis became a 2-time 140-pound titleist in December with an 11th round stoppage of Jose Zepeda to win the WBC title.
Because he's coming up short of answers with the top-ranked guys, Jose Ramirez and Teofimo Lopez, going to the PBC would be his second best option. That's where 2 of the 4 titles are in the men's super lightweight division.
I say second best because, well, it's a possibility that he goes over there. What is the probability that the PBC will pay him the kind of money that he's looking for, and the probability that they'll make those unification matches in a timely fashion? The PBC are not known for doing fights and making fights when they need to be made, when they need to be done.
They should have made the Benavidez versus Plant fight a long time ago when both fighters were unbeaten champions. As it stands, they're set to fight this year for no real world title at all, just an interim belt.
Something very similar applies to the Spence versus Thurman fight, a fight that was a hot topic before the Crawford versus Spence fight became a hot topic. That's a fight that's about 5 or 6 years too late. Keith Thurman is not now who he was in 2017, yet they're just now getting around to making it happen.
They don't make fights in a timely fashion.
Regis Prograis, I think he's in his mid-30s. He's a 2-time super lightweight champion, and they do have 1 or 2 unification matches there for him. Making a fight with Regis and those champions, those fighters, the winner of Matias versus Ponce or Alberto Puello, the reigning WBA champion, champion. He has more of a profile than they do. Nobody knows those guys.
Barely anybody knows Subriel Matias or Jeremias Ponce, and even less people know who Alberto Puello is, even though he's a champion.
I mean, I'm not against Regis Prograis going over there and fighting those guys, but you can't bank on the PBC making these fights in a timely fashion. They have an awful habit of letting fights go stale.
There's a third option, an alternative.
And a fourth. The third option for Regis Prograis that comes to mind is potentially facing the winner of Taylor versus Catterall, set to go down very soon for what is still Josh Taylor's WBO title, the one he's still in possession of, and, lineal status.
Ring Magazine belt.
Their rematch is supposed to be going down very soon. Word round the campfire is that Sky Sports is willing to pay to play. They are overpaying several fighters in excess of their market value in order to bring over talent and broadcast content on the Sky Sports platform. That's more or less why Lawrence Okoli ended up migrating from Matchroom over to Sky Sports and Boxer. That's why they picked up Clarissa Shields, signed her to a deal on the premise they'd get the Savannah Marshall fight over the line. And I feel if they were willing to sign Clarissa Shields to do the Marshall fight, I think they might be willing to sign Regis Prograis to do a fight with the winner of Taylor versus Catterall too.
They might.
Independent of Bob Arum and independent of any involvement from Top Rank. We know that Bob Arum quite publicly expressed aversion to working with Probellum and any Probellum fighters on the premise of their tenuous connection to suspected cartel king Daniel Kinahan. Regis Prograis and Ben Shalom, Boxer, and Sky, they can reach a deal amongst themselves without any involvement from Bob and without any involvement from Top Rank.
Same way they did with Clarissa. Same way they did with Michael Hunter. They can sign Regis Prograis. He's got a belt. He's a champion, and they are invested in the men's super lightweight division.
They've got Josh Taylor. They signed Jack Catterall. I'm hearing that Florian Marcu, unbeaten Albanian up-and-comer Florian Marcu, he's set to move down to the men's super lightweight division. They've got ponies in that show. Regis could be one among them.
I feel like Sky Sports and Boxer as a destination could be Regis's third option. His fourth could be Black Prime.
I'll be honest, I'm coming up short of answers as to who Regis would end up fighting on that platform. The most I can come up with is Black Prime bankrolling a fight between Regis and Terrence Crawford at some point this year, up there at 147, which would not affect Regis's status as a champion at 140. That's a possibility, an idea that I've been bouncing around.
Or maybe Adrian Broner.
I don't know what's supposed to happen with that Redcatch fight. Ivan Redcatch posted something on his social media that seems to indicate he won't be fighting Adrian Broner. I'm not sure why.
People at Black Prime, they've got to find Adrian someone else to fight. That's the look of it. But beyond that fight, maybe he can fight Regis.
Maybe. It's unfortunate. The 140-pound division didn't become this political up until recently, and the division is suffering for it.
Stagnating a little bit, it is.
Regis might have one or two options to explore, not exclusive to fighting top-ranked fighters. He can try his luck over there at the PBC, and if that don't work out, he can head over to Sky, see if they have something for him. And if they don't, try Black Prime.
See if they can't set something for him up.
It's going to be interesting to see where he lands. And finally, Boxing Insider Rick Glacier tweeted, "I haven't released a Tank pay-per-view number yet, as the number I received was so low that I'm attempting to give it the benefit of the doubt by verifying it with a second source. If true, I never thought it would be this low. We'll keep you informed as soon as it's verified. Thank you, #boxing.
Why is there so much secrecy around the buy rates for Tank's pay-per-views, and why do people pay attention to this stuff?
Well, the reason people pay attention to this stuff is because for the longest time, Leonard Ellerbe has claimed that Gervonta Davis is a top draw, top billing, he's a star, and all of that.
And I've long maintained that if he is in fact a star, it'll show up in the buy rate. It'll show up in the numbers.
That will tell the story more so than any overzealous fans by way of social media, more so than any hyperbolic comments from Leonard Ellerbe, who might seek to exaggerate Gervonta Davis's success
He might.
in order to keep up appearances.
It's hard to claim that Gervonta Davis doesn't need anybody because he's the division's biggest draw when the numbers tell a different story. And here and now, we don't know what the numbers are for his last fight.
Though if you had to try to wrap your mind around this as to why there would be so much secrecy and so much attention going into the buy rates for Tank's pay-per-views, in spite of Tank doing a decent gate.
He can sell some tickets. He can sell some tickets, but can he sell pay-per-views?
In 2 words, it's leverage tactics. It's hard to say that you're the A-side to a Shakur Stevenson or the A-side to a Devin Haney, the A-side to a Vasyl Lomachenko if they know what the numbers really are.
Thus, the practice of exaggerating what the numbers are and rounding them up, it's a leverage tactic.
That if you're asking yourself, why would anybody lie about something like that? Well, that would be the why. That would be the reason. And Rick Glacier, boxing insider Rick Glacier, claims that the number for Gervonta Davis's last fight opposite the ring, Hector Garcia, is a number so low he wants to double check to make sure that the number checks out. And for what it's worth, I can believe
the pay-per-view tanked because people are sick of seeing Tank opposite the ring these guys that nobody's asking him to fight. I'm sorry. Hector Garcia, at best, was a super featherweight.
You fought him at lightweight, so how does fighting him at lightweight make you the king of lightweights? You're not fighting the Vasyl Lomachenkos, the Devin Haneys of the world, and how long have they been asking you to fight Vasyl Lomachenko anyway?
It looks like Devin Haney's about to do the job for you. He's going to end up doing what was your homework.
He became undisputed champion at lightweight. You didn't. Now it looks like he's going to end up fighting Vasyl Lomachenko before you, even though you had a head start.
Gervonta Davis being this big box office draw, that's an illusion. That's all smoke and mirrors.
What they're doing with Gervonta is they're putting him in there with these inexpensive, low-profile opponents to keep the operational costs for the show low.
Inexpensive fights with inexpensive fighters.
So that it's easier to break even. If Gervonta Davis were a marquee attraction, a marquee fighter, the scale of a Canelo Alvarez, he could afford to make a fight with a Devin Haney or a Shakur Stevenson or somebody like that. But the truth is, he's not that big a draw.
Well, he's supposed to be fighting Ryan, isn't he?
Yeah, but Ryan has his own marquee value, his own set of fans that will help foot the bill.
What do you think? You think all the interest for that fight is coming from Gervonta Davis fans?
They are relying on Ryan Garcia and his supporters to help bankroll that thing as well.
Comes to the other Garcia, Hector Garcia.
Nothing against him, but it's about time that he start fighting fighters that actually have a profile. The Hector Garcias and Mario Barrioses of the world simply won't do.